first walked in and the reveal, I was definitely overwhelmed. I'm still a little overwhelmed, but they were tears of joy and happiness because it was sort of the culmination of what we've worked for like, I'm 53 years, and kind of just hit me like a brick because I wasn't like watching the house being built every step of the way. And when we were decorating and we had these awesome meetings, the samples were like this big. So I didn't remember what I picked out.
My experience was a little bit different because I was a little bit more hands-on with the building at every phase and coming out here and meeting with different trades and stuff. So I had a better sense of kind of how the house was coming along, and I came the day before to meet with the AV people to make sure like the TVs and the lights were working kind of how we wanted them before we stayed here. But it was amazing when I came in with Amy to like see the emotion, and then I got emotional because the house is not something we never dreamed of having, and it's really unbelievable. It's really exciting.
The bunk room upstairs turned out better than I expected. I couldn't remember the colors that I picked, so I had this vision it was going to look a different way, and then when I walked in, I was blown away. And then also our bathroom and bedroom, that whole area.
I think the primary suite turned out just beyond awesome. Hard to really picture it all at the time we were doing it, and then when I walked in, it's just, the coloring's awesome. It's not overly big, it's kind of intimate, and it has great views of the lake. And in our room at home, we don't have chairs that we can sit in, and just the stools at the end of the bed are really cool. I just really, really like the primary bedroom. This was really not the plan. And in all honesty, Amy was the one who wanted the lake house, and I was like kind of into the idea, but not really. And then we looked at a couple houses that we didn't end up getting for one reason or another, and I'm like, I'm not in a hurry. I told our broker, like, let's just take our time. And he called me in March of 23, and he's like, I got the lot. And so like Amy said, she was working, I drove up, I walked around, and I saw how close the house was to the water and just how much frontage there was. And I was like, if we're gonna build a house, this is just a spectacular piece of property. And so we bought the land. And to be honest with you, in the whole process, I thought I was gonna get a lake cottage, and obviously you've been through the house, this is not a lake cottage.
We actually got invited to lunch at our friend's lake house. And when we drove from Chicago to Wisconsin, our blood pressure went down. And so that was the day that I then said, I think I want a lake house because I want my blood pressure to go down, right? Being a physician, doesn't everybody want their blood pressure to go down? Anyway, so long story short, they said, we used this awesome guy, Randy Thielen. Okay, we didn't look at anybody else. We didn't check any other builders. We went straight to Randy. And so we met him, and I was impressed and blown away within 5 minutes. And so the next logical steps, now that I trusted him and liked what he had done, and he had the vision that I absolutely had, the same sort of vision, the next logical step would be to ask him, well, who should we use to decorate our house? Well, of course, he said, my daughter's amazing. You might want to meet her. And so we met Katie. Yes, this is the one, this is the person. We didn't go to any other interior decorators. We didn't interview anyone else. She blew me away the minute I met her.
So Randy's obviously pretty well known on the lakes. He's been building on the lakes for 40 years and has just a stellar reputation. So if we were gonna build, I said to Amy, we're doing it with Randy. And I didn't, our broker gave us a couple of other builders to talk to, and I'm like, no, Randy's the guy. And so when Randy said, you don't have to use my daughter, but I think she's really good. And what I really liked about working with Katie and Yvette is Katie's not just an interior decorator. Like, she grew up on construction sites, so she has a bigger vision as to how everything's gonna pull together. And that, throughout the process with the team, with Katie and Yvette, is what blew me away. It's just so much more than putting a wall covering here, or putting a couch there. It's really kind of how the whole house is gonna work together, inside and out.
Something that I kind of was impressed with by Katie was that, like you said, she wasn't just an interior designer, she was also a business owner. And we are business owners too, or were, and I think that is a whole different perspective, because it's really hard to be great at what you do and be a business owner, right? Because one has, like, we want to please the clients. However, we also want to be financially appropriate and make sure that we think about that too, because we're a for-profit business, right? And so my point in saying this is Katie's excellent at doing both, okay? And there's very few people that are excellent at doing both and look out for the best interest of their clients.
You know, obviously we've lived in our home in Deerfield for, almost 20 years. And we had Yvette come over and see our house because we really wanted her to get an understanding of, we don't want it to look like this. We really want it to look like the lake. We want blues. We really want to be very different in how we build and decorate our house. And they always gave us 2 or 3 good options. And the wonderful thing about Amy and I is we have very similar taste. So I can pretty much know that when they give us 3 options, we're always going to gravitate towards the same one. And if we don't, not a hill I'm going to die on. I usually give Amy her preference.
Yeah. So the initial design meetings, I knew right away that I wanted this like blue kind of nautical color, like a light blue island. And then we literally, I think, built the house around that color blue. I'm a dermatologist, but I'm also an oil painter. I've been painting my whole life since I was like 10 years old. So I inherently am not a decorator, but I know color. And I always sort of think that your skin is sort of the canvas, and then the needle, which is what I do, is kind of like the paintbrush. And I kind of could tell that when Yvette and Katie were in the meetings with me, that they knew the artistic vision as well, because as a decorator, you kind of know the same thing. You know what's considered beautiful and what's not, basically. And so I could tell right away that they shared the same vision that I did.
One of the things for me, which was really kind of critical, is the house that was here and we took down, the great room that we're in and the kitchen were part of that original footprint. But because of the way the regulations were written, they wanted us to have to build the house closer. So Randy and I were concerned that we were going to have to cover the lower patio. So we were able to go before the commission and the zoning board, and we were able to get them to allow us to build kind of back a little bit from the lake, which I think opened up the views a lot, which is really kind of exciting for us, because that was a process we were kind of waiting to see what would happen.
Because I am a dermatologist, I am obsessed with not being in the sun. Okay, so what was important was like, what time does the sun set? Where does the sun set? Where does it the hottest? What's the windows gonna look like? What are gonna be the shade structures? And so we had to think about all of that too. And I don't think the average person thinks about that kind of stuff. And I know I'm kind of weird and not the average person. With every decision that we made with the outdoor space, I think we made that decision based on the sun.
The screened-in porch to me was really a critical component of the house. And as you can see, we put pocket doors in because I wanted that space to flow with the kitchen. Because I mean, we built this house obviously to entertain our friends and our family, and I just wanted it to be seamless if there were 15 or 20 people eating, where people didn't feel like they were being excluded because they were going out on the porch and people in the kitchen. So I feel like the ability to see that vision and have pocket doors and have that whole area open up so it's part of the house is really awesome. And the grill that's in there is amazing. So even in the winter, even when it's not nice out, I mean, I can grill and we can hang out and kind of enjoy the space. So I think that may become one of my favorite spaces when I get to spend a little bit more time in it. And working with Randy and Katie and Yvette and Craig, our landscape architect, the lower level with the way the brick walls are set up and just kind of that whole area that's so close to the lake just really makes it easy access for us and our friends, and it's gonna be wonderful.